Hello, welcome back to the Recordertron channel. Today I would like to talk about this little fellow, the Laney Leadtop solid state amplifier. The reason I want to talk about this is because I feel like it's a little bit slept on in the community, and it's such a good amp for the money. Obviously it's quite a dinky little fella, but it's very, very loud. It's 60 watt solid state, but it packs a real punch. It's very, I think you'd have to be playing in a very loud band or, very large environments for it not to cut through in a band situation. It's also really good for recording. I've been using this as pretty much a daily driver whenever I'm doing my recordings at the moment. I use it for a lot of my sort of rhythm stuff and some of my layering. It's got a real nice sort of thick saturation to it, kind of reminiscent of sort of Marshall, modern Marshall DSL or JCM sort of series, with a little bit of 5150 in the mix, I would say, but it's entirely got its own personality as well. I use this with my pedals. It's a really good pedal platform. It does have two channels on it. It's got a clean and a lead sort of channel, or an overdrivey channel. You can't actually channel switch with this one with like a pedal or anything. You'd have to go for the dual top version, which is also available. But for me, this is the winner because it's just so cheap and it sounds really good. It's got that nice low end thump that you sometimes can be a bit lacking from some solid states compared to valve amps, and it's just got tone for days. I would really, I'd go as far as to say this matches up with the Super Crush, which is a really, famously very good solid state amp. And I believe it's around 170 odd pounds. I'll bring up the actual price for you here, but it's an absolute steal for that money. I don't think enough people are really talking about it, so I want to go into a bit of detail about it and give you some sounds from it. And it might just be the amp for you, especially if you're into pedals. I think that's where it really shines. So yeah, anyway, let's crack on with getting some sounds, and then I'll talk a bit more at the end about what things I really, really like about it. So yeah, on we go. So a quick word about the signal chain. We're going into the Tube Screamer Mini from Ibanez, which is followed up by the Victory V4 Kraken preamp pedal, which is very very good. And then we've got the reflecting pull from Fender, and that's going through obviously my Boss tuner and the orange fur coat, which you'll hear a little bit later in the video. And that's all going into my Torpedo Captor 8, and then that's into my Complete Audio 2 from Native Instruments. There's a cab sim running, which is a vintage V30 Celestian clone sort of thing, with a SM57 in front of it, and that's all going into my Lappy. So some really killer tones there, I think. Yeah, from that you get the real feel for like how well it does sort of big chunky riffs and like, saturated distortion. For me, it's like you just get a big like it feels like it handles the low end well. It's like not maybe as tight as probably some super modern amps or like, you know, amp sims or whatever, but I like that. I like the fact it's got that more of like a, feels like it's tight enough to be able to do some of the like chuggy chug stuff, but it's got that sort of what would you say, that sort of elastic sort of bottom end that you tend to get from like valve amps, which is one of the reasons why I really enjoy it. And when I'm doing some of the sort of big riffs with some of the picking, or like the sort of chords with some of the higher strings in there, you can really feel and like hear the definition between them when you're doing the chords, which is absolutely perfect for like the post-rock kind of stuff that I do. It's just a really cracking little amp. So I'm going to move on to some other clips. I'm going to have a go with the telly through it. My classic, well, classic's not the right word because it's not a classic vibe. It's a Fender Player Series, but it was featured in my last video. So we'll do some clips with that and see how we get on. So as you can hear from the Telecaster examples, you can get that nice crispy bright tone that you would expect. So, you know, if you were maybe aiming for more sort of like indie rock sort of styles, or, you know, you just want some more some sort of brighter sounding passages or whatever for your music, it's perfectly good for that. And you can get some also like pushed cleans, as you've heard in that little section. Incidentally, Telecasters are amazing for like riffs and chugging. I don't feel like they get enough sort of exposure in that realm, but they are surprisingly good. So I would suggest you try it yourself. And this little fella is a good sort of platform to do that on. So yeah, I'm going to move on to some tones from my SG, my Epiphone P90 loaded classic SG, and I'm going to do some more sort of clean things. Again, slightly on the edge of breakup clean, but perfectly usable for you know, some more of the sort of mellow parts of the songs. So yeah, let's have a look at that now. But wait, there's more. I just need to jump back in quickly because I wanted to say a little bit about where my effects are going. So all of my effects are going into the front of the amp. It does have an effects loop, but in my time as a musician, I've always kind of just gone in the front, and I've gotten used to that. I like the way it sounds, and that's my preferred method. But the amp takes the pedals in the front like a champ. Overdrives, reverbs, delays, whatever you like. Does a really good job with it. It even does well with fuzzes. I'm going to play a bit of fuzz later in the video with the P90 guitar, with my orange fur coat fuzz. Just, you know, whatever you throw at it, it's absolutely fine. I believe it does have a boost switch as well, which I think you can use foot switchable. So technically you could kind of have like a 2-channel thing going on where you kick in the boost and it juices it up. But it's not going to be as versatile as like a proper 2-channel amp, and also you're probably better off just doing that stuff with your pedals. So yeah, but takes the pedals like a champ. Had no issues with stuff going in the front end. So you've got the option, FX loop or front end, and they both work great. So happy days. Anyway, on with the P90s. So from the P90 examples there, some really nice, sort of clean, open sounding parts there. Splashing on a bunch of reverb and delay. Oh, it just sounds great. You can get those real nice ambient sort of sounds from it. And then obviously when you want to, kick into a higher gear, you've got the rest of your pedals for that. So yeah, and I also think the P90s really had a nice chunky sound to them when I was doing the more rhythm sort of stuff. Incidentally, great guitar, really surprisingly good, those Epiphone sort of mid-range SGs with the P90s. So yeah, I would say you can get pretty much any sound you want out of this thing, really. Maybe if you're looking for like absolutely pristine, cleans with a ton of headroom and, kind of a bit of more musicality to it, you might want to look at something like a Fender, or, something in the clean realm. But you could definitely do it with this. I just think it works best at sort of pushed breakup to, more sort of heavy, not heavy, but like just more rock oriented sort of stuff. But you can definitely, it's really good, as I say, for like post rock, which is what I do predominantly, because you can get those nice pushed cleans and then you can get the big, just massive sounding riffs out of it, considering how small it is. So yeah, just in totality, it's a really good amp, and for the money, you'd be very hard pressed to find something like much better. Tiny footprint, pretty much fit anywhere, and you can run it through a cab or you can run it through a cab sim like I'm doing. Perfect for recording and gigging. I think one of the only sort of minor downsides with it is probably the power supply. For some reason they elected to go with a sort of, it's almost like a laptop style power brick, which in itself is not bad, but if you have any problems with it or the power supply goes bad, you're going to have to try and source a new one, which you could probably find one, because it's just a however many volt power supply, but you're going to have to like make sure it's got the right polarity and it's all that jazz. So it would have been nice if it was just a kettle lead input, but it's a small complaint given the price and performance of the amp. So it's just something to be aware of. But yeah, in closing, what a brilliant amplifier. I think I saw it on sale recently for like 120 quid at PMT. Just mental. Like, if you see one, at that price, or even at full price, it's definitely worth the time. And, you get a great little amp, and you've not had to pay the world for it. So, yeah, I would strongly recommend ye oldie Laney Leadtop, or the dual top. And it has got an effects loop, but I like to run most of my effects through the middle, because it's just the way I am. But yeah, brilliant stuff. Anyway, I'll catch you later, and I'll be putting another review out fairly soon. Ciao.